Good weekend, everyone. I hope you're all doing fantabulous this week and you're having an incredible time in the Northern LA launch and you were able to fill your bags with properties you were hoping to get in the Metaverse. John Henry here, SSFTG. Welcome to This Week in Review on Upland, where we take a bit of time to discuss what's going on in the Upland Metaverse from an analytical perspective. Make sure to stick around and see how your favorite city's doing. We've got some really cool new graphics and updates and things along the way, so I'm really excited for this one. And that's going to be a little bit later when we break down each sector with our zone-by-zone analysis. If this is your first time landing on our page, welcome to the crew, my friend. While you're here, why not throw a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and also that little notification bell icon right there, ring that little bell, and that way you'll know every single time we drop one of our new videos, and we have new content coming out every single day. How healthy is the UPX economy? How is each market sector performing, and which is the best deal and what's the worst? All of the important information that many folks overlook that can be the difference between success and failure. I'm also going to be covering what I'm doing personally towards the end of the video in the Upland Metaverse, and that way you can kind of keep track of what's going on from my perspective as well if you're interested. If you aren't in Upland yet making those towering stacks, click the referral link in the description to get you started in Upland with some starter UPX, and if you decide to invest some cash, you get a massive 50% bonus up to 50,000 UPX on your first UPX purchase. Be careful though, because you only get that bonus if you use the link to register in the first place. Alright, let's jump over and take a look at what's going on in the Upland Metaverse, shall we? As far as the news and events are concerned, this week was relatively quiet as far as news, and that's not really that big of a surprise considering, North LA was launching. We do have less news than last week, and last week obviously we had South LA, but there's a lot of things going on, so we'll give them a little bit of a break. And, as far as the North LA launch is concerned, I mean, a few minor hiccups along the way, and I do have some of the minting footage recorded with clips and all that fun stuff. Make sure to watch that a little bit later. I believe that should be coming out on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But there's, all in all, I mean, this launch went really well. But if we look at the numbers, there might be a really obvious reason as to why that was. We'll get to the numbers in a minute here, but looking at the news and events, the only thing that we had was Los Angeles Part 2. And as far as Los Angeles Part 2 is concerned, that was just the release of Northern LA, which, as far as I'm concerned, if we were to give it a rating out of 10, honestly, I would say it was, aside from some of the incredibly frustrating moments that happened, like I said, you'll see those in the clip, I would give it like a 9. It was pretty smooth. I barely had any spinning wheel problems. I didn't have any send problems. I didn't have any glitches along the way. There were a few properties that disappeared from under me. That was fun. But aside from that, it was a really smooth launch. Now, if you remember when we go back to January 28th, they had the announcement of the LA Stadium project, and they have started announcing some of those winners via Discord, so I believe they've called the winners 3 times now. So make sure if you are staking and on the LA Stadium project to get in Discord to see if you won. Along with that, we did have the auction for this week, but the auction was delayed due to technical issues. That was on the 2nd, and then we just found out on the 4th that it was rescheduled, so a little bit of a hiccup there, but I believe it was something to do with the Discord bot and nothing to do with Upland per se, so technical difficulties happen. I've had a ton of them this week too, so I know exactly how they feel. And also on the 4th of February, we had our first UPX billionaire announced, which was really cool, Abdullah86, which that's just absolutely insane. That's really, really cool to see and just shows an incredible amount of growth coming into Upland. So huge shout out to Abdullah86. Congrats. Swinging over and taking a look at the 30-day transactional volume here, we do have North LA behind us. And with North LA behind us, like South LA, we saw a monstrous increase after South LA. North LA, however, doesn't have as much of an increase. And I think realistically, we were kind of joking about this. I think everybody spent all their money on the first launch. The first portion, Southern LA, was significantly more expensive than I was anticipating it being for me personally, and I've heard the same thing from a lot of other people, and this kind of shows us what's happening, right? I mean, it just looks like everybody blew their stacks on the first one, and they didn't really have a whole lot left over on the second. The 30-day transactional volume compared to last week is down about 18%. Last week we were sitting on the 30-day average at about 6.9 million, and this week looking at the numbers we're at about 5.7. So it is, like I said, it's about 18% lower from where it was before. With a monster influx of volume on the launch of Southern LA and a little bit of a reduction of an increase in volume on the launch of Northern LA, I think really all we are kind of waiting for now is for the market to kind of balance out. We just had a metric ton of NFT properties launched on top of Upland's already existing lots and lots of properties. So it's got to find a new balance. It's very similar to a stock split, right? When you have a stock split, the value of the company hasn't changed. There's just more shares. The underlying share value tends to decrease a little bit. We saw that decrease, a ripple effect across most of California, and in fact, the majority of the game once they had the announcement of LA. But now that we've got that behind us, the market's got to find some time to get a little bit of a balance in. And whether or not there's any new news or anything else coming out, remember, we have collections that are getting announced next week. So a lot of this volume and a lot of this lull that we're seeing here will likely start spicing up a little bit when we know where the collections are, because that's when everybody's going to start jostling all of their properties around, when they know the true values. All right, and now we switch gears over into the zone-by-zone analysis to check out the gains and losses. I just made a new graphic for it, so I'm pretty pumped about it. I know it's nothing special, but it's the little things in life, Bakersfield had a previous UPX floor sitting at 9,876. The current UPX floor is at 10,000. The previous USD floor is at $9.98. The current USD floor is at $9.50, which gives us an UPX change of a positive 1.26%, but a USD change of a negative 4.81. A little bit of an interesting kind of back and forth there, but for the most part, it's just kind of stable, hanging out, not really doing much in Bakersfield, kind of calm and quiet over here. Bronx is demonstrating a little bit of a pullback here as well, kind of calm and quiet. The previous UPX floor is at 12,222. The current UPX floor is 11,999. It's a moderate little pullback for 1.82% down. The previous USD floor is at $11.49. The current USD floor is at 11. That gives us a USD change down 4.26%. For the most part, Bronx is down across the board, of course, but really not by much. Pretty calm and quiet when we compare it to some of the other ones. Brooklyn's next on the list with a previous UPX floor at 14,800, the current UPX floor at 13,197. Brooklyn's getting dinged a little bit here, down 10.83%. The current USD floor is $11.50. The previous USD floor was $12.70. That's also down 9.45%. Brooklyn, as far as a pullback or valuation play, is on an incredible dip for pullback buyers who are looking for some cheaper opportunities here. Maybe if you're looking to fill in some collections, you might be able to pick them up on the cheap if they're priced nice enough. Oh, Chicago. What? Wow. Another little bit of a mixed bag here in Chicago. The previous UPX floor at $7,999. The current UPX floor at $8,325. It's a nice little gain of 4.08%. The previous USD floor at $7.40. The current USD floor at $7.25. That's down 2.03%. We've got a little bit of a flip-flop, some ups, some downs, but again, here, there's not really any huge ebbs and flows. It's mostly balanced out in the Chicago area. And considering how many properties are in Chicago, the sheer quantity of them, that's really not too bad at all. Cleveland, on the other hand, compared to some of the other ones, is having a really solid week here. Cleveland's previous UPX floor was 8,800 UPX. The current floor is 9,500. That's up 7.95%. Beautiful gain there. The previous USD floor was $8. The current USD floor is $8.43. Nice continuation to the upside there, 5.38% up. Cleveland is nice and healthy and building its way back up again. Fresno, on the other hand, could use a little bit of the help from Cleveland on the USD side of things. Previous UPX floor is 11,500. Current floor is 11,899. Nice little, marginal gain of 3.47%. The previous USD floor was 1098. The current USD floor is 10. That's down almost 9%, 8.93% on the downside there for Fresno. Nice little USD pullback while the UPX side of things is still gaining momentum. Oh, poor Kansas City. Kansas City is, of course, one of the locations that still has properties available to be minted. That is a consideration because when you're in a zone that still has properties to be minted, well, generally speaking, those ones are going to be the ones that pull back first because the competition is a lot more aggressive. Kansas City still has 52,815 properties available to mint. That is down from last week's 53,877. So it's down a good, 1,000 or so. And given the fact that we have the launch of North LA, that's not too bad considering that they still cleared away 1,000 properties in Kansas City. The previous UPX floor is at 9,990. The current UPX floor is at 9,400. That's down 5.91%. The USD floor is another one that could also use some help. Was $9.47 last week. This week, the current floor is at $8.47, down 10.56%. Again, it's another area that has properties to mint, and, well, when the competition is stiff, they're going to be a lot more aggressive to get rid of them, and you'll notice a lot of these prices are very close to the minting floor prices as well. And, well, that's because a lot of people are trying to sell at cost or just under cost to get their UPX back so they can move into LA. When we have those natural ebbs and flows, and we realize that Kansas City, they've only got 52,000 properties left, then we start to realize, well, supply and demand becomes a thing, and this could start working its way back up. Now, Los Angeles is a little bit of a different one. Of course, it's brand new to the scene. We don't have data from last week to work with on the USD side of things, so we've got some marginal data at best. Previous UPX floor is 8,700. The current UPX floor is 7,960, but this is going to ebb and flow like crazy over the next few weeks, especially with collections being announced this upcoming week. The previous USD floor, nobody had any properties long enough to actually have a USD floor, but the current USD floor is at $7.50. The UPX change is down 8.5%, but again, this is going to go all over the place for the next couple weeks while this finds its balance. Manhattan Financial District, baby, here we are. Well, they're not doing so well on the USD side of things. The previous UPX floor is at $199,999. The current UPX floor is at $194,999. That's down 2.5%. Not really a whole lot going on from that perspective. The USD floor, however, is getting a slap in the face. Previous USD floor is $175. The current USD floor is $159. That's down 9.14%. Manhattan continues to be on the diving end of things, but remember, these always tend to bounce back up towards that 200,000 range, at least in terms of value, and doubtable that the financial center of New York is going to lose value by much. This seems like a logical USD play that people were trying to get liquid ahead of Los Angeles, and if they wanted to cash out, what better way to cash out than to buy a 200,000 UPX property and then turn around and sell it for $170, $160, $159, etc. You take a little bit of a ding on the top, but it's a way that people utilize to cash out. Nashville next on the list. Now, again, this is another one very similar to Kansas City and Los Angeles now, in fact, that still has properties to be minted. As long as that's the case, these ones are usually the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. As far as Nashville is concerned, there are 77,102 properties available to mint. That's a lot, right? That's double what we were just talking about in Kansas City. So no wonder people trying to get liquid are dumping in Nashville because there's twice as much competition. Now, if we do look at last week's number was 78,138. That's down about 1,000 from last week. So they are still clearing through the properties in Nashville, but it is a little bit slower to move. And based on that, in the fact that there's so much competition, if we look at the previous UPX floor, it was at 11,998. The current UPX floor is at 10,200. That's down almost 15%, getting slapped on the UPX side of things. It makes sense, though, given the context that we just talked about. The previous USD floor is at $9, and the current USD floor is at $8.47. That's down 5.89%. But here really demonstrates that people aren't really willing to take too much of a loss on the USD side in Nashville. They're just trying to sell their properties for UPX. New Orleans is next up on the list, and we've got a little bit of a mixed bag here. Interestingly enough, we're also seeing some real-world news happening in New Orleans in the French Quarter with some businesses getting shut down because of Disney's filming. They're effectively making it so there's no traffic to some of those businesses. I don't know how much real-world news is going to impact the virtual world, but it's interesting nonetheless. I haven't been tracking sector by sector, but I would be curious to see what the French Quarter specifically is looking like compared to last week. Unfortunately for me, I don't have that data. But looking at New Orleans as a whole, the previous UPX floor is at 10,250. The current UPX floor is at 10,900. Really nice gain there at 6.34%. On the USD side of things, however, it's down about $1. Previous USD floor is at $9.80. The current USD floor is at $8.98, down $8.37% rather. Oakland is kind of doing what we were talking about last week. The ripple effect through California has been felt, right? We have that, for lack of better words, like we were talking about before, the stock split, right? We've got more properties available, and before all of those properties become available, all of California was seeing a big dive, a big dip in terms of their overall valuation. And now that LA has launched and we're beginning to see a little bit more stability coming in, we're seeing the bottom starting to creep its way back up again. That's called a healthy market, right? The previous UPX floor is at 13,000. The current UPX floor is at 13,850. That's up 6.54%. As far as the USD floor, not really much of a change at all, actually. The previous is at 998. The current is at 10. So that is up 0.2%, I suppose. Up is up, better than down, but I mean, either way, basically flat there. Rutherford is up, and Rutherford is doing really well. You remember last week we were talking about how Rutherford was an incredible buying opportunity on some of the biggest dips that we've seen in a while. Well, that worked out pretty well, I would say. The previous UPX floor is at 45,000. The current UPX floor is at 50,000. That is a positive change of 11.11%. I love that number. The previous USD floor is at $46. The current USD floor is at $48.99, seeing an increase there as well at 6.5%. Very nice bounce back in Rutherford, as expected. And speaking of as expected, back over on the West Coast with San Francisco, we have San Francisco doing incredibly well on the UPX side of things. And again, we know why. We had the repressed markets before the LA launch, and now we're starting to see them build their way back up again. San Francisco's previous UPX floor is at 32,500. The current UPX floor is at 36,500. The previous USD floor was $30.99. The current USD floor, $29.89. A little bit of a flip-flop there, but the UPX change is up 12.31%, and the USD change is down 3.55. Now, if we want to talk the gas pedal, Santa Clara is where it's at. Holy moly, they hit the gas pedal on the USD bottom floor. Jeez, oh Pete's. We had the previous UPX floor at 26,429. The current UPX floor at 28,800. That's up just by itself 8.97%. But then we look at the USD floor from $22 last week up to the current floor at 27, up 22.7%. Beautiful increase back in Santa Clara. And again, we're seeing all of that cash flow coming back from LA, and now it's represented back in the rest of California that was a repressed market. Now it's starting to creep its way back up. Picture perfect stuff here. And then finally, over on Staten Island. Staten Island is basically flat for the most part. The previous UPX floor is 14,800. This week's UPX floor is 14,850. That's a positive increase of 0.34%. Pretty negligible there. Previous USD floor is $13.93. Current USD floor is at $13.70. That's down 1.65%. Not really a whole lot going on the Staten Island side of things. Relatively stable. From the personal account perspective, if we go into our owned properties and collections, this week I've got 141 properties. If you look at last week, I was at 121. 21 collections, still 21 collections, no change there. I'm waiting for the collections in Los Angeles. If we look at the overall net gain here, currently now we're sitting at 2.524 million. Last week we were sitting at 2.279, so 2279595, and that is a pretty nice increase of about 10%, almost going on 11%. So another solid week of gains going in through LA. Last week it was up 7%, this week it's up 10%, doing pretty well, all things considered, from a personal stat side of things. As far as my personal stats and spreadsheeting and all that fun stuff, as far as this past week, I've only sold 3 properties. Oh no! Actually, those 3 properties, if we actually look at the valuation of them, the 3 properties make up more value than the last 3 weeks combined. It's not always about quantity, sometimes it's about quality, and a lot of that quality happened on Santa Monica Boulevard, a nice apartment flip when it came to the apartment right next to the stadium in Inglewood that they're building, and then just a little flip in Mission Hills. Of course, the majority of the properties that I am holding are not for sale, right? These are all in this dark orange. These are the ones that I am still waiting for collection data. I was able to grab a couple of those businesses along the way, and I've got those for sale. And if you haven't seen it yet, like I said, on Monday, I believe it's Monday, I'm going to be launching a video of me grabbing some of those. But those are up for sale, and outside of that, the rest are just waiting for collections. And until then, I'm not really going to be selling a whole lot. Let me take a tally here. In terms of the overall properties in LA, because LA was where we were buying it up, bought a total of 42 properties between South and North LA. I'm sorry, no, actually just South LA. For me personally, and I think everybody will have a pretty similar answer, the majority of our properties that have been bought over the last week or so have been in Los Angeles, right? Yes, we did see Kansas City, and we saw, some of these other ones that still have properties able to be minted. We saw them decrease by about 1,000 properties here and there, 2,000 across the board. Not a whole lot of action. But when we get announcements from, Upland saying that there's been over 100,000 properties minted in one portion alone, I think it's pretty safe to say that we know where everybody parked their cash, and it's all sitting in LA right now. Of course, with that, there are a lot of properties that are still unminted, like I've been saying. And, when there are unminted properties, there are going to be a high level of competition, right? Why buy, this property when I can buy the one right next door to it? Sure, there might be things like business tags. And if you can get your hands on some business tags, those can be worth some things. Even if you can find some things that have really funny, screenshots or street views. As an example, this IHOP, which is the most ridiculous IHOP in the world, because when you go into the street view, it's not an IHOP, it's a trophy shop. And if you wanted the entire trophy shop, you're actually going to have to have bought this one too, because if you look at the street view of this guy, and we go inside, this is actually just the back room of the trophy shop. So both of these are actually just one business. Let me just go out here so you can see. Here's the trophy shop. It's little oddballs and anomalies like that can increase their value from a meme perspective, right? From a funny perspective. But you've got to do a bit of marketing for those types of things. And, outside of the big names and all of that, the competition is going to be incredible. Because if I look at this and I say, okay, well, I can buy this one for $12,000, or I can simply navigate my Uplander over here and mint this one for $8,000. Right? That's what I mean by an aggressive amount of competition. The only ones who aren't going to have competition initially are going to be business tags and, icons and boulevards and those types of things. As LA starts to sell out, which will take time, but as it starts to sell out, these things will grow and grow and grow in value. And then we hit that point where there aren't any more properties to mint in LA, which is going to be a while, mind you. And then all of a sudden now we're thinking, where's the next place? Right? Then it becomes a whole new fun bag because all the values of the LA properties go through the roof. All right, so that's going to do it for this week in review on the Upland Metaverse. I hope you and yours are doing incredibly well this weekend and your stacks are as thick as ever. Have an amazing rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back on Monday. Thanks for watching.